They have to come up with new categories for the awards. The Golden Globes came up with a new one this year. That basically picture people liked. They had, they had become such self-congratulating, virtue-signaling bores that they had to go, oh yeah, let's make a category for that. People actually paid to see something great. So there's Oscar categories. Would you like to hear the Oscar category? I know you will.
Let's be honest, award shows feel completely out of control now. It's like walking into a party where everyone keeps congratulating themselves just for being there. Strange, right? And Bill Maher has been pointing at that exact issue lately because the Oscars, the Golden Globes, all of it feels less about celebrating great art and more about showing who seems morally superior. If you've ever sat through a 3-hour show thinking, why does this feel like schoolwork? You already understand the frustration. That's the heart of Maher's rant. And honestly, it's hard to disagree. These shows keep creating new categories, not because movies suddenly changed, but because culture did. The internet got louder, the industry became more nervous, and now everyone rushes to prove they're on the correct side of the newest outrage. You can sense the shift. Some categories exist for real reasons, like when streaming truly turned the industry upside down. Fair enough. The way we watch films and series is different. The way projects get funded changed. Even the meaning of a movie shifted. So yes, sometimes new awards actually matter. Then there's the other type. The type born from panic in a meeting where someone says, people are upset again. We need something that looks meaningful. And just like that, a category appears that is basically Best Picture, but only for films audiences actually enjoyed. Meme heard jokes that the Golden Globes made a category for a movie people liked. And it works because it's accurate. Imagine needing an award just to admit that people bought tickets. Incredible. Stunning, brave. And that's the odd, confusing disconnect.
The thing about the Oscars is they do reflect society. That's why we pay so much attention, partly. And things are always changing in our industry, like streaming. It just changed the whole industry. This happens so often. So they have to come up with new categories for the awards. The Golden Globes came up with a new one this year. That basically picture people liked. They had, they had become such self-congratulating, virtue-signaling bores that they had to go, oh yeah, let's make a category for that. People actually paid to see something great. So there's new Oscar categories. Would you like to hear the Oscar category? I know you would.
Regular people are out here working hard, paying bills, trying to squeeze in a movie night, and the awards behave like enjoying something is embarrassing. You liked it? Okay. But did it make you feel guilty enough? That's why this whole virtue-signaling awards culture annoys so many viewers. Not because people hate strong messages or social commentary. Movies have always included them, the best films do. The issue starts when the message becomes the product, and the story only exists to deliver a moral speech. That's when audiences check out, ratings drop, and the industry panics. Instead of asking, how can we make this entertaining again? They ask, how can we add more categories, so everyone feels represented? It sounds kind, but soon it feels like a fancy participation trophy factory in tuxedos. Maher's joke works because he pushes it to extremes. He suggests fake categories like best editing for a movie still an hour too long, and tell me that wouldn't be the toughest contest of the year. You already know which films would get nominated. Then he goes even further with ideas like achievement in ethnic prosthetics, best performance by a replaced actor who posted something offensive, or best freeze frame use, followed by, you're probably wondering how I ended up here. You laugh, but that laugh does 2 jobs. It's funny, and it reveals the strange logic behind the current system. The joke isn't that awards should never change. The joke is that the changes seem designed for insider applause, not viewer excitement. It feels like the people running these shows forgot who matters most, the audience.
Best editing of a film that's still an hour too long. Achievement in ethnic prosthetics. Best achievement in replacing an actor who tweeted something offensive. Best use of a freeze frame, followed by the words, you're probably wondering how I got here. The Michael Bay Coolest Fireball Award. The least annoying picture where the plot is driven by a simple misunderstanding. Best song performed by someone your niece can't believe you've never heard of.
And here's where things get more interesting. Awards used to matter because they reflected the culture. Even if you disagreed with the winner, you could at least see the nominees as a picture of that year's entertainment. People argued at work the next morning. People made friendly bets. People shared opinions. Now it feels like half the time the public hasn't even heard of the winner. Not because people are unaware. It's because the selection process moved into a small, closed world where taste is judged by ideology points. You can feel the mood. This is important? Maybe. But is it actually good? Did it move anyone emotionally? Did anyone quote it or watch it again? Did it stay with viewers, or did it simply receive praise for checking the correct boxes? When awards stop honoring what audiences truly connect with, they begin losing credibility. It's no longer best of the year. It's best according to a small committee living on social media.
Finally, best use of a real-life TV talk show host whoring himself out to make the movie seem more realistic. And how is President Ellis responding? Well, I know the usually get a lot of laughing. I had no idea this could actually be a job. I mean, I knew it could be a...
Which brings us to the larger point Maher keeps returning to. Fear. The fear of saying something wrong. The fear that a joke will be misunderstood. The fear that a clip will spread online without context. The fear of the mob, as he calls it. The idea that if you step slightly out of line, your career ends. Some people think that sounds exaggerated. Some argue cancel culture doesn't exist. And I always wonder, who are they talking about? Are they living in another reality? Because we've seen careers damaged over old tweets, poor jokes, awkward wording, misunderstandings, and sometimes even false claims. Maher makes this point sharply, but also with freedom. Most outrage is shallow and short-lived. People get angry, shout online, demand consequences, and then 2 days later, they're upset about something else. It's like the internet has the focus of an over-caffeinated goldfish. He mentions Ben Stiller in Tropic Thunder, one of those movies many claim couldn't be made today. And Stiller basically says he won't apologize for it. Surprisingly, his career survived. The world continued. Nothing collapsed. That's the lesson Maher wants Hollywood to understand. Stand behind your work and often the outrage fades by itself. Is that always true? No. Some industries are tougher, some people are more exposed, and backlash doesn't affect everyone equally. But the message still matters. If everyone apologizes in advance, the loudest critics end up controlling culture permanently.
You know, when movie lovers get together these days, one phrase that comes up a lot and always makes me sad is, yeah, you couldn't make that one today. Top of that list is the great Tropic Thunder, which the scolds have been after for years. But in February, Ben Stiller tweeted, "I make no apologies for Tropic Thunder. It's always been a controversial movie since when we opened, proud of it and the work everyone did on it." See, people, it's not that hard. He said it, and he still got a commercial. And the lesson is, if you stand up to the mob for just a day or two, their shallow, impatient, immature, smartphone-driven, gerbil minds will forget about it and go on to the next nothing burger, and you still will have your cojones.
And that's where Maher's main theme becomes strongest. He's talking about rewarding courage, the kind that refuses to be pressured into strict ideological agreement. He points to moments when leaders stood firm. For example, Netflix during the Dave Chappelle controversy. Employees protested, pressure increased, and Netflix basically responded. "We produce boundary-pushing comedy here. If that's not for you, maybe this isn't the right workplace." Love him or dislike him, that moment was significant. It showed an institution saying, "We won't allow internal activism to change the core rules of our platform."
This next cojones goes to a man who's dear to my heart for standing up for stand-up. When dozens of Netflix employees walked out over Dave Chappelle's reckless decision to perform comedy on his comedy special. CEO Ted Sarandos could have pulled the special and replaced it with more episodes of Who Wants to Watch Koreans Get... But instead, he reminded his Netflix employees that comedy exists to push boundaries and told them if you'd find it hard to support our content breadth, Netflix may not be the best place for you.
Here's the uncomfortable truth many people avoid saying. A lot of woke messaging and entertainment doesn't come from viewers. It comes from inside the building. Writers' rooms, corporate HR, studio politics, people who believe their job isn't only to entertain, but to teach, correct, and guide you. Stories can absolutely challenge audiences. That's what art is meant to do. But the moment it turns into a checklist and a lecture, it stops being art and becomes propaganda with better lighting. Maher also brings J.K. Rowling into the discussion. No matter your opinion of her, her situation clearly shows how quickly moral standards can change. She was once criticized by some conservatives for writing about witchcraft, and now she's criticized by some progressives for her views on sex and gender. It's like watching someone get recast as the villain in a reboot. The larger point is that today's hero can easily become tomorrow's target because online purity rules never rest. They constantly look for the next problem. That's why Maher's idea of an award show for people who resist cancel culture is both funny and a little depressing. Funny because imagine those red carpet interviews. Who are you wearing? I'm wearing No Apology by Dior. Depressing because, as he mentions, the idea got excitement and then disappeared. Of course it did. Even people who privately agree rarely want to be the first person publicly striking a match near a gas leak.
J.K. Rowling used to be a villain to the right because she wrote books about witchcraft. Now she's a villain to the left because she has the crazy belief that there's more to being a woman than pronouns and lipstick. So that was the point of the evening. How do we take a stand against cancel culture? And I suggested, since we were mostly all in show business, that we start an award show to honor the brave people who have fought back. Well, I got to tell you, the idea was met with great enthusiasm by everyone. And in short order, different people were suggesting the ways that their varied talents could be put to use.
The comedy angle is where this argument really hits hard. Maher explains that comedians are treated like ticking bombs. The industry says it wants humor, but only the type approved by the most sensitive person in the room. He points out the contrast. Will Smith committed a physical act on the Oscars stage and wasn't removed immediately. Yet Kevin Hart lost the Oscars hosting role because of old jokes. No matter which details you focus on, the outcome feels the same. The standards appear backwards. Real behavior sometimes gets overlooked, while jokes are treated like serious offenses.
Woke hecklers who literally have to wait for the laughter to die down before they yell, "That's not funny!" This war on jokes must end. Will Smith didn't get kicked out of the Oscars for going Ike Turner on Chris, but Kevin Hart got kicked out of hosting it for a joke.
And that's the risk of turning entertainment into a constant moral courtroom. You can't have real comedy in a culture that refuses to consider intent, context, or personal growth. Comedy is supposed to test limits, question sacred topics, and take small risks, not to harm, but to be truthful. It should make you laugh and then instantly think, wait, should I be laughing at that? That tension is part of the skill. But Maher doesn't stop with Hollywood. He also criticizes academia, and fairly so. He discusses colleges removing standardized testing because it's considered discriminatory, and he praises the schools that restored it. His argument is simple. College is meant to be challenging. It's not based only on feelings or participation. Students should prove they are prepared. He also challenges the idea that testing itself is automatically racist, as if measuring knowledge is somehow immoral.
First cojones goes to Dartmouth University President Sion Baylock, who reinstated standardized testing at admissions, and by bringing back the SAT, made a clear and brave statement. It's not racist to test if high school students know.
Here's a practical way to think about that debate. Even if you believe standardized tests have weaknesses, and they do, there's a difference between fixing a system and pretending measurement itself equals oppression. When you remove standards, you don't eliminate inequality. You simply delay it, and the barrier people face later won't be soft. When Maher jokes, if we're not very smart, relax. Many schools are test optional. It sounds harsh, but it highlights a real issue. Are institutions focused on excellence or just appearances? And this connects back to award shows. The Oscars, the Golden Globes, and similar events were once about excellence too. Imperfectly, yes, but that was the idea. Now, half the time it feels like they reward the correct message instead of the strongest work, and viewers notice. They can sense it. That's why people often say you couldn't make that today. It's not always literal. It's a short way of describing a larger concern. Creativity shrinking under social pressure. Writers, directors, and comedians doubting themselves before they begin. Everyone trying not to become the next online villain. And that leads to bland entertainment. Movies that feel written by committee and approved by legal teams. Characters who talk like corporate emails. Award shows that resemble business conventions.
Who are these people who say cancel culture isn't a real thing? Just among comedians who've gotten fired and lost gigs for exercising their freedom of expression, the toll is high. Gilbert Gottfried, and Kathy Griffin were tasteless. So what? That's why we like them.
So yes, Maher's rant is funny, but it also feels like a warning. If Hollywood keeps chasing social approval instead of strong storytelling, award shows will continue losing importance. Not because people dislike progress, diversity, or whatever simple label critics receive. They'll lose importance because no one wants to sit through 3 hours of wealthy celebrities congratulating each other for projects few people actually watched. And the solution isn't complicated. Reward excellence. Reward boldness. Reward stories that last. Reward performances people keep discussing. Reward writing that isn't afraid, and let comedy be comedy again. Messy, sharp, flawed, human. So here's the question. Do you still watch award shows? Do you think they've improved, declined, or become irrelevant? And what's the last movie you saw that felt truly daring, like it wasn't worried about upsetting anyone? Share it in the comments. I'm honestly interested in what people think, because in the end, culture doesn't belong to committees. It belongs to audiences. And if the industry wants viewers to care again, it may need to stop performing morality and start delivering greatness.